Oh, we interrupt this moment.
Yes,
We should have prefaced that
technical
because
difficulties there. So
no, but we're still going
yeah,
strong.
we're
It's
still
part
going.
three. It's
Yes,
part three now.
of course.
There's first half hour,
Yeah,
then 15 minutes, and now another 15 minutes.
exactly.
But anyway, I was talking about Tom Jones. We'll just pick it up where I left off.
Yeah.
Tom Jones said was working at a radio station, and they wouldn't play anything like Neil Diamond or Tom Jones or Barry
Yeah,
Manilow. They thought that was they were above all
yeah.
that. If you never had a hit, then they wanted to play you. But if you had a hit and the people liked you, they didn't want to play.
Right, right.
So anyway, somebody asked we try to play requests, and somebody asked for Tom Jones, and somebody says we don't have any Tom Jones, and then I said, oh, I know where there's some Tom Jones. We had a greatest hits of the James Bond themes, and Thunderball was on there. So they wound up playing a Tom Jones song, and then of course the station manager goes, "Who wants to play Tom Jones on our station? That we don't play that crap." Tell them to listen to the top 40 stations if they want to hear. When I was working at a radio station, it was a college radio station.
Yeah,
You become such a snob for music,
yeah,
which is wrong, because they always say, "Well, I'm a music lover. I'm a music lover, and I don't like Tom Jones, and I don't like Engelbert Humperdinck, and I don't like Wayne Newton." I said, "You're not a music lover. You're a music hater."
yeah,
In fact, artists
yeah,
like painters and stuff, I
yeah.
found painters, maybe critics might be different. Painters are very support of
Right,
other artists. They don't
right.
usually condemn. They say because a lot of people think that if one artist breaks through, that maybe
Yeah,
you might break through with
yeah,
a similar thing.
yeah.
So Tom Jones and my mom, and we had a big day once at Wolf Trap. We went to see Tom Jones. This is not. I mean, this is near the it's about 10 years ago,
Yeah.
and a bunch of my family went, and we all went, and my mom was a big fan of Tom Jones, and so we all went, and it was great to see Tom Jones. He was just this character on the radio or character on television, and finally we got to see him, and he was great.
Oh
He has
wow.
so many hits, he can't sing them all, but he does sing the important ones. The green grass of home,
Yeah.
and it's not unusual, and what's new pussycat, and his last hit, which was I think a few years old at that point, was Kiss,
Mm.
which all of us, which out of nowhere he had like one of his biggest hits ever in the I guess 1990s, singing
Wow.
with the Art of Noise, singing a new version of Kiss by Prince.
Oh
And
yeah.
in fact, now when you go to do karaoke, and Kiss is one of the only really good Prince songs you could do karaoke with. They give you a choice. You want the Prince version or the or
Yeah.
the Tom Jones version. Both versions are good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so that's so Tom. Oh, and one last thing about my mom. My mom, he had a TV show out of London every in the late 1960s, and my mom worked hard with all these children. She was almost like the old woman lived in the shoe, and she would work hard
And
all
she
week.
had so many children, she did not know what to do.
Exactly. So what happened was it was came
Yeah.
on really late.
Yeah.
It was an ITV show
Yeah.
from England. That was the network that put it
Yeah.
on, and then but it was on ABC in America, and they didn't put it on till like 11:30 on a
Yeah.
Saturday night.
Wow.
We were all in bed. My mom just my mom still was working, ironing our sheets and everything,
Right,
and
right. Mm.
we're just little kids at the time, and she put on that Tom Jones show, and
Mm.
now it's very hard to find even that on YouTube, because once someone puts it up, they take it down,
Yeah, I know.
because I think there's a lot of
There is
contractual
a
things.
lot of videos
But a
out like
lot of
that. Yeah.
great singers appeared on that show. I mean, singers at that time, like in the late '60s, you did not see anymore, like
Yeah.
Little Richard
Right.
and Jerry Lee Lewis, and even Engelbert was on it. A lot
Yeah.
of country singers were on. I think
Yeah.
Johnny Cash was on. I think Bobby Darin was on there.
Yeah.
So it was. So check out. It's called. The name of the show was This Is Tom Jones.
Yeah.
The other guy I've been listening to has been
Oh, he's good.
his name is you can't really get a good look at him, but his name is Steve Goodman.
Yeah, it's like a blues kind of
Yeah.
like a blues, jazz, country like.
Yeah. Well, he was something else. This guy. He was basically like a folk singer or a country singer. He wrote all the songs, not all the songs, because a lot of his songs he sang in concert were just popular songs he liked. on this album, he actually sings Winter Wonderland, and
Oh
the Red
yeah.
Red Robin goes
Yeah.
ba ba
Bum
ba ba
bum
ba.
ba.
But he sings, but and it takes you a while to get out of your head that this
Yes.
guy is playing the guitar. He's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
good at singing and playing the guitar. Now he only lived to be in his early 30s. He was pretty
Wow.
much sick his whole adult life. He had leukemia.
Yeah.
He was like my height. He was only about like 5'3" or so,
Yeah.
and he was from Chicago. He wasn't. He was a big city boy. He's a Jewish
Wow.
guy,
Yeah, yeah.
and Steve Goodman. And he, if you don't know any of his other songs,
Mhm.
because there's a cult around this guy that
Yeah.
he was so talented. He wrote the song that Arlo Guthrie had a hit with called "The City of New Orleans."
Mhm.
And he would actually perform it, and a lot of people say, "Why are you singing Arlo Guthrie's song or Willie Nelson's song?" Well, actually, Willie Nelson recorded after he died as a tribute to him. If you don't know the city of New Orleans, there's one. It's the one that goes, "Good morning, America,
America,
how
how
are
are
you?" You know,
you?
and that's such a catchy song. It's one of the best songs I think written, certainly in the 1970s. And this guy pretty much just prospered in the 1970s. Steve Goodman. This is a good album to get because it has he it's like a concert album, but it's
Uh-huh.
actually called each song is from a different concert, so it all sounds like he's singing it all at once, but they're all sung at different times.
It's good. It's a really good
And
CD. Yeah.
he also had that song that he considered the greatest country song of all time. It was
Mhm.
called "You Never Even Called Me by My Name," the
Oh wow.
perfect country song, I should say.
Yeah.
And David Allan Coe actually and John
I
Prine
almost
had
sung
that song.
along to this
Yeah,
last night when he played it.
yeah,
It's really
yeah.
good. It's awesome.
Sadly, he died at a young age.
Yeah.
John Goodman, not Steve Goodman is his name, and check him out. He's the type of guy that you never heard of him, and you may not, uh, and you may give him a try and
Yeah.
listen to his songs. They're very
Oh
good. He
yeah.
writes
Yes.
really good songs.
Yes.
And City of New Orleans, great song.
Yes.
And what was I going to say about? Oh, this guy. The only real fame this guy had. There's two things he had fame with other than the Arlo Guthrie song, and one was he wrote a song for the Chicago Cubs. Let's go Cubs or something,
Oh yeah.
and go Cubs go or something. And it was played a lot. It's still played a lot as the Cubs theme song. And when the Cubs were on their way to winning the World Series a few years ago, was the first time
Right.
they never won it in his lifetime. It took like 85 years before they won it since the last time. And so, and then also, so they still play his song at Wrigley Field. And the other thing that he is famous for was, and he wasn't even famous for this. He was the warm up of Steve Martin. Took a shine to him, and he was the warm up for Steve Martin when Steve Martin was very popular in the 1970s as a stand up
Yeah.
comic. Instead of getting another stand up comic to warm up for him. He got a guy who sang funny songs
Yeah.
because Steve Martin played the banjo and sang
Yeah.
funny songs.
Yeah.
So Steve Goodman was his warm up, and so if chances are if you saw Steve Martin in the '70s and everybody wanted to because he couldn't get tickets, it's
Yeah.
very hard to get tickets to see Steve Martin.
Yeah.
Uh, you probably you probably didn't know you were seeing
Right.
another great talent as the warm up, and that was Steve
Right.
Goodman.
Yeah,
Yes,
he's really good. So
yes,
I
and
recommend him
yes.
totally. So
I have one more guy to show,
yes, one more
and
guy.
this is Tom Jones. Everyone knows about. Steve Goodman. You may not
I
know about.
haven't heard of him, but I heard he's really good too.
Now this
So
guy is a guy called Chet Baker,
yes.
and Chet Baker was like the jazz man's favorite trumpeter.
Oh,
He was a
okay.
West Coast guy. He was
Wow.
from the Midwest somewhere,
Wow. Yeah.
and there's a documentary about his life, and it's I think Bruce Weber made it, the famous photographer for the Calvin Klein ads, and it's quite the documentary. It's one of my favorite documentaries. I have to admit I did not know a whole lot about when I saw it, I guess in the mid 1980s. And he had already died. He was already
Right.
dead when the documentary was made, even though he
Right.
was there to be filmed for the documentary. It has probably the saddest scene you'll ever see in a movie
Wow.
at the end of it. He was a heroin addict, and he was taking
Wow.
heroin while this movie was being made. And at
Wow.
the end of the movie, I guess the director, uh, Bruce Weber, I think is his name, he actually said, "You're a great talent. We want to keep you. please clean yourself up. And he didn't. He didn't.
Mm.
He just gave, I'll do what I can do. Well, what happened was, he was somewhere and he was like playing the trumpet, I think after a show, and he fell out the window.
Mm.
Like you're in the windowsill playing music, and then
Yeah.
someone comes by and pretends to knock you over. So nobody knows what happened, but he fell out, and he fell
Wow.
to his death.
Wow.
And he was in his
Terrible.
he
What
wasn't
a
he
shame.
was I think in his 60s at this point.
Mm.
And he how this guy lived this long is something else. But this guy is it was considered like this great singer, blues singer, and great trumpeter. Yeah, Elvis Costello put him on one of his
Right.
albums, um, uh, and um, and I think that's the only thing I knew about him was that he was on an Elvis
Right.
Costello album, and also so Chet Baker, they were I think after he died they were going to make a movie about his life with Leonardo. He looks a little like Leonardo DiCaprio.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
as it turned out, it was a movie was made about him, and it was I think produced and written and starring Ethan Hawke,
Oh
and he did a
wow.
good job.
Mm.
Also, there's a kind of a fictionalized version of his life called. Now you're gonna love this. It starred Robert Wagner as as the trumpeter based on this guy,
Oh wow.
Chet Baker, and it was called All the Fine Young Cannibals. That's the name of the movie.
Mm.
And of course, everyone knows the band that named themselves after this movie. They drive me crazy. Yeah, yeah,
But no one
yeah.
cares.
Which has nothing to do with Chet
You
Baker.
drive me crazy and no one can resist.
Yes.
Oh, oh.
So check out anything having, and I talk a lot about Chet Baker, and he's one of those guys that if I see an album on sale at a yard sale or something, I have to pick it up. I have
Oh
to,
yeah.
if I don't already have it. And he was like the James Dean of jazz.
Yeah.
He was maybe the now he'd be I guess the Kurt Cobain of jazz.
Yeah.
But he was
Yeah.
very and also even though he played with Elvis Costello and he sang a lot of standards, mainly jazz standards. He didn't sing on every album, but when he sings, he's very good. He was one of the considered, and he's one considered one of the best jazz vocalists of his time.
Yeah.
Maybe not now, but of his
Right.
time, people wanted to hear him. Um, I think the only video I've ever really seen of him in the old days, he appeared in a couple of movies, Italian movies, where he was an
Oh, okay.
actor, but he was also on the Steve Allen show a
Wow,
lot.
cool.
But
Awesome.
that's Steve Allen had a penchant for jazz, and
Right.
he would put a lot of people like Chet Baker on the show, and he was and so oh by the way, when Chet Baker, he has a young look about him, even though when he died he was all wrinkled up and he had no teeth.
Mm.
He was arrested and in jail for a while,
Mm.
and he had all his teeth kicked out. That's a
Wow.
good reason to stay out of jail because sometimes sometimes they'll hold you down and someone will kick your teeth out. That's what happened to him.
Wow.
It didn't stop him. Didn't or knock the thing over here. It doesn't like I said. It doesn't harm you playing the trumpet, but it harms your speech and everything. This album is the best of. I bought this possession. It's actually called "Let's Get Lost." "Let's Get Lost" was a song by Frank Lesser.
Wow.
It's in one of his. He wrote Guys and Dolls, but it's
Yeah.
not in Guys. It's in one of his other
Right.
shows,
Right.
and he sings a lot of Gershwin songs. He sings "My Funny Valentine." He sings "Daybreak." "I've never been in love before." "You don't know what love is." Oh, and by the way, I mentioned these songs. They're all sad songs, or the way he
Mm.
sings them. So he doesn't sing anything up. If they're upbeat, that's fine, but they're not. They're not as upbeat. They could be more upbeat, but they're not. They're the
Right.
best things to hear on a rainy day.
Yeah.
I mean, you will really love to hear. He's actually done some. Uh, the last few years of his life, he was quite popular, and there's a few videos of him in Europe and in London performing at
Right.
Ronnie Scott's and places like
Right.
that are
Yeah.
jazz clubs in Europe and
I
Amsterdam and
can't
places
wait
like
to
that.
listen to that
Yeah,
one.
this is
Yeah.
so I recommend Steve Goodman
Yes.
and Chet Baker.
Yes. Yes.
So there you go.
All right.
So I hope we turn some heads. We might
Yeah,
put some in the comments. I always say I'm going to do
of
that.
course.
But
Yeah.
we'll put some YouTube stuff I can find.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you all tuning in, and it was so exciting to see you all today, and may God bless you. Take
I'm Kaye
care.
Lazar. What's your name?
My name is Mary Elizabeth Jones. God bless.
Oh, we interrupt this.